Welcome to Growth Colony, Australia's B2B podcast. I'm Alex from Xgrowth. Each episode, we bring you B2B founders, CMOs, marketing and sales leaders to find out what makes them successful and what was behind their failures. Or as we like to call them, hard-learned lessons. If you enjoy the episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and share the pod with a friend you think could get value out of it. And of course, make sure to join the community Slack channel at growthcolony.org/Slack. That's enough from me though, let's dive right in.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. I'm Shane Hoda with Xgrowth, and today I'm talking to David Fisher, who describes himself as a sales guy who learned how to market. He's also a Sales Hall of Fame inductee, speaker, author, and coach. And today we're talking about how marketers should collaborate with their sales team and turn them into brand advocates for the business on specifically LinkedIn. We're going to be talking and covering mistakes, processes, content tactics, and a lot more. So let's dive in. David, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm super pumped as well. This is, the whole concept of social selling combined with creating advocates in the sales team. I think it's a very interesting topic and one that a lot of people, I think a lot of companies get it right. They don't get it right. They think it's important. Mm-hmm. Either they don't think it's important or they think it's important, but they don't get it right. So I'm really excited to talk about this and explore this. So, but let's first cover a question of why it's important. Why this is a strategy that organizations need to think about.
Yeah, there's a couple key things I think we have to keep in mind here. When you think about, and I'm going to look at this from a sales perspective, when you think about what has happened with selling, even over the last 20 years, the arrival of the internet, the arrival of easy access to information has really changed the role of a salesperson, right? It used to be that a salesperson came to a prospect, a potential buyer, and basically said, hey, I've got the brochure. Right. If you want to find out information, you have to come to me, or else you have to, go through this very lengthy investigative process trying to find information. Now that the buyer can literally go to their phone and just, hey, I want to get the latest specs on this. I want to do some research into different competitors. It's all right there for them. So from a sales perspective, we can't, as a salesperson, rely on information. We actually have to provide more value and more service to our prospects. You hear this a lot, bring value to the prospect, to the buyer. What that really, I think, boils down to, because value is a super, wishy-washy word. What does it really mean? It's really helping them make better decisions faster, more easily, with less risk. And why I start by saying that is because if you're then in a sales organization, you have to prepare your salespeople, not just to be like, hey, you're going to, bang the phone, cold call, just hope to get in front of somebody at the time that they need some information. That doesn't work anymore. It has to be, we've got to put you out there and help you become a true resource for your network of prospects, so that when they are in their buying journey, when they do need to get some information and insights, you're the person that they go for. And so that's why, and by the way, as you describe that, it sounds a lot like marketing, right? And so that's why this is then bleeding into the idea of, salespeople have to learn some of these marketer skills. And conversely, bottom of the page, marketers have to learn some of these sales skills too. But that bifurcation, that siloing that we used to see that was so common just isn't as effective as it was maybe 10, 20 years ago.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense why it's important.
Okay, good. I'm glad it makes sense to one of us.
or the why organizations should be focusing on this. But I also feel like in a lot of situations, marketers, they're like, okay, cool, I get this. And they want to take it to the sales team and, trying to get buy-in from sales team. And then sales team is like, here we go again. This is the new color of the month. Marketing is back at it with a new thing they have. What is the right approach? How, in your experience, how should marketer approach the sales team to kind of get that buy-in, to get them active on LinkedIn and so on and so forth?
Well, and that really is the question that I think organizations need to ask, especially marketing organizations need to ask and then to answer, because it's always blown my mind. I came up in sales from a very non-corporate environment. I was in direct sales out in the field. And so when I started really working with organizations, it actually blew my mind that marketing and sales don't get along, right? Because I'm like, wait, you guys are doing the same, like everybody's got the same job here, get more business. Why is there such this? And it's not even like they fight. It's like siblings, right? Just nitpicking at each other and rolling their eyes. And I'm not going to listen to what my brother tells me to do, or I'm not going to listen to my sister. And it's the same thing in organizations. I think that for marketers, a couple things that are really key to getting sales team buy-in. First of all, it's really important that when you're going to your sales team, I think for anything, you put it in context of helping a salesperson make more sales, right? And that might sound pretty obvious, but marketers actually often come in and go, hey, I'll use CRMs as an example. Let's have this really fancy CRM platform that's going to capture all of this data about drip campaigns and touch points and salespeople often end up not using those CRMs because they're like, hey, I'm just trying to make sales. And this is collecting data for somebody else that's not helping me get in front of people I want to talk to, have conversations with them and move them towards a buying decision. So if you're a marketer and can walk in and say, hey, I want to help you make more money. I want to help you hit your quota. I want to help you talk to more of the people that you want to talk to and have better conversations and supply them with better insights so that you can close easier and faster. All of a sudden, the salespeople in the room go, hey, I'm all ears, right? So it's kind of getting the buy-in is actually making it about them, which is pretty rare, right? And so I think that's the first part. The second is understanding what a salesperson is actually going through. One of the biggest things I think a marketer could do to really get buy-in from their salespeople, go hang out with them. Ask one of your salespeople, say, hey, can I shadow you for a day? Right now that means a lot of like, hey, can I sit in on your Zoom calls? But that also makes it so much easier to say, hey, can I actually listen into what your conversations, your discovery calls, your value building? Can I actually see what it's like to sit in a room with 2 or 3 stakeholders and decision makers and hear what it's like to not only get all the questions that you're being asked, but also see what you have to do to try to move that conversation forward. That will be very eye-opening because for right or wrong, I think a lot of times salespeople will often go, hey, you don't know what it's like to have quota hanging over you. You don't know what it's like to have that stress of going in and talking to, the VP of X that I'm trying to close. And I've got my manager and my VP of sales on my back. So when you can go in and actually just watch and listen and learn, and then be able to say to that salesperson, hey, I get what you're managing. I get what you're dealing with. First of all, just on a human level, the salesperson goes, cool, I'm being heard. But then it allows you to go back and go, okay, now I can give you some ammunition. I can give you content. I can give you LinkedIn posts or blog articles or podcasts or white papers that are actually keyed into what your prospects need to know. Oh my gosh, that's when you get buy-in. That's when that salesperson is going, hey, give me more stuff because it's great and it's helping me. That was a bit of a rant, but I think it's really important because a lot of the disconnect happens well before marketing shows up with some content for LinkedIn, right? It's the foundation that is being set or that is not being set.
Yeah. And where have you seen marketers go wrong? Like, right, you talked about how to kind of approach it. What have you seen marketers do that backfires or it just doesn't work?
You actually mentioned it, flavor of the month. Where it goes wrong is, hey, everybody, the VP of marketing or the director of marketing, depending on the size of the organization, comes in and goes, hey, we're going to really get on social selling now because it's hot and it's really important. So we've had a big ad spend. We just put a bunch of money into LinkedIn ads or whatever the platform is. And you know what? We've got all this content that we've created that we think is really important, that's in alignment with, not this is subtext, of course, but it's basically like, we think that this is what's important and we put it together. And so we're going to send it out to you, or, hey, we're going to put it on our company page and we want to make sure that you like it and comment on it and just, right. And just do everything to spread that. And that's it. That's like 10 minutes at the, beginning of quarter sales meeting versus, and that there's no buy-in, right? Because of course the salespeople are like, well, they're going to care about this until next sales meeting. We're going to hear something totally different. And they, the sales team has not only no buy-in, they've been given no direction, no coaching, no understanding of why this helps them. This helps the organization, depending on the size, depending on the age, let's say, of your sales team, there's probably a lot of pushback just on social. If they're a little older and they're like, yeah, whatever, this social selling is BS, whatever. Or conversely, and this has happened a lot in the last 18 months, people are freaked out because all of a sudden if it was a field sales team, now they can't go out. And so they are on LinkedIn, but they're like, hey, I keep, inviting people into my network and then pitching them right away. And it's not working, but nobody's taught me anything else. So I'm going to just keep doing it. That's where the challenge lies, right? You need, as my friend Steve Watts says, you need mindset, skill set, tool set. And in that order. And I'd say it's in that order. You gotta get the mindset right. Then you give everybody the skills and then the tools. And it's usually reverse, right? Hey, here's some content, go use it. And that's the big mistake that I see organizations make.
Gotta love a quote from Steve. Okay. Let's. I want to talk about process. Let's say we have the kind of mindset. Sorry, we have the buy-in from the sales team. I know you talk quite a lot about the process that marketers should put in place, especially from a content creation perspective. Tell us a little bit about that. What do you mean by that, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I do think that can be very challenging because a lot of times marketing puts together content in a vacuum. And that's not always a bad thing from a marketing standpoint, right? They're just like, hey, we did some A/B testing and we're trying to approach certain buyer persona. We've got some larger strategic objectives. But if you just go to your sales team and say, hey, use this content because we think it's going to hit our goals, again, there's not as much buy-in. The process I would very tactically suggest is a shared meeting. I think about every 2 to 3 weeks is right. Not every week, that's overkill. Once a month isn't enough. And literally take a couple of marketers who are going to be kind of spearheading the creation of content, and not the whole sales team, and not even like the top salespeople, but the ones who are really bought in. Get like 2, 3, 4 of them together. The ones who are like, hey, I want to use social. I want to be in front of people, and I'm talking a lot of prospects and customers. You take these two groups. So there's probably between 3 and 5 people in the room, maybe up to 6 or 7 at most. And you literally have this meeting where the marketing team interviews the salespeople. And there's a number of different questions you can use, but it can be as simple as what are the objections that you're getting a lot right now? What are the discovery questions that are the most relevant right now in your conversations? What are your prospects or clients? Because you're talking to the people that have bought or maybe will buy our product or service. What are they saying is the reason that they are buying, or that they have bought, or that they're not, right? Basically, what the marketing team is doing is interviewing the sales team and go, tell us what our customers are actually thinking, feeling. What are their hopes, dreams, right? Aspirations, pain points, challenges. And it's a very immediate feedback loop, right? You're not going to focus group. You're talking to Jill, who was just on a discovery call with a prospect. And that prospect was like, well, actually, your competitor just told us about this other feature that they have and that you don't. And that's actually important to us, right? Whatever it is. I mean, there's so many different things that could come up. But what that marketing team can then walk out of that room with is like, hey, we need to help our salespeople answer, this question at the beginning of the funnel, at the top of the top of the funnel. So right when they're trying to get interest, here's the 2 or 3 real challenges that prospects are dealing with. So that if we can give our sales team content that answers that question, that positions them with some level of expertise, that there's your middle of the funnel content that they can be sharing. And hey, the salespeople are saying that the reason that people are buying right now is because of X, Y, Z. Holy cow, we've got a bunch of case studies from the last 5 years that all are on that. Okay, we need to chop that up, package it up, so our salespeople can then send that out, whether it's on LinkedIn or in an email. That's kind of the final chop of the axe to knock the tree down. Like that. That's that support that they need. So they have that information. Then they can go and create content, whatever, our blog articles, LinkedIn posts, video, podcasts, all of that stuff. But what's important here is now they have another meeting. Let's say it's 3 weeks later. At that meeting, they can be like, hey, here we create the content that, you can share. Here's why we created. Here's, what we're trying to support with you. Sales team is like, oh, that's great. I basically told you to write this and you wrote it for me. Okay, of course I'm going to go share this. You don't have to convince me. All right, this is my customer. This is awesome. But they have that question time again, like, hey, what are people saying now? It's 3 weeks later. Is there something relevant in the industry that's changed? It's a different time of year, whatever. You keep doing that. And then you also get this virtuous cycle. Hey, you shared that content. How'd it go? Did people engage with it? Were you getting comments? Were you getting likes? Was it crickets? Right. And that, again, we kind of did it in brief, but it's really just about having that shared time and that conversation back and forth on both sides. I've found that sales, let's call them revenue producing organizations with sales and marketing involved, the ones that are doing this right kind of naturally, what often happens is that the leader in sales and leader in marketing are friends, right? Not friendly, but like generally like they get along. They because that naturally makes them spend time, and their teams naturally spend time together. But here's the thing: you can't just hope your VP of sales and CMO like each other. You've got to engineer a process that, hey, we're getting these teams together. That's I think a process that works well, and I've seen it work well.
Got it. So that's from the process perspective of creating that system, having that cadence with the sales team, and having the conversation, building content from that perspective. Is there any specific areas that marketers need to think about in order to craft the right language for social, or is it really hey, we do we do Marcom. It's the same thing. Let's just do some stuff for LinkedIn and pass it on to sales. Is the language and the crafting of the right language an important factor?
I think it is. I think that's a really astute question. One of the biggest suggestions I would make for marketers is actually to get active on LinkedIn and any other social platforms that they want their salespeople to, but actually be active, post a couple times a week, and not for the organization, for themselves, right? Even if they think, well, I'm not customer facing, whatever, the exercise of having to craft their own messaging and share their own personal brand and find out how to get that kind of genuine voice in will do so much to go, oh, this is what, I didn't know how to craft this post, or I knew I wanted to say this, but I struggled a little bit. Oh, that's what our salespeople are running into. And oh, by the way, I'm a professional writer. They're not. Okay, so right, I now have some empathy for the process, because I'm always blown away. Like when I go work with a client organization and their marketing team's like, yeah, we're super excited to get the salespeople on social. We can't wait to get them on LinkedIn. And then I look at all their marketers and none of them are on LinkedIn ever. And I'm like, there's a disconnect there. Telling people to do what you say, but not what you're doing is tough. That being said, and I kind of touched on it a little bit in that example, there's I don't want to say a casualness that needs to come through in social more, a humanness. I think most of us have read so much marketing copy just because we're marketed to, that we can read a post on LinkedIn and go, oh, this was not written by this person, right? It's really bad when you actually know the person kind of, and you're like, that doesn't sound like you at all, right? And I don't think that means that marketers have to try to write for the personality of every single person on their sales team. But I do think there's value in going, let's be human. Let's understand that when, for example, we're posting on LinkedIn, we're part of a conversation that's happening, this 750 million person networking event. So if I come with this really stilted marketing, jargony heavy, post, nobody's going to go like, oh, wow, that's super insightful. They're going to freaking ignore it because, again, we can see that a mile away. So don't be afraid of putting that humanness in it. That, I used the word empathy before, but in the end, the more you can create that empathetic connection, that human connection with somebody who's reading your content, the more effective it's going to be. So I think that's the other big thing. I call it being social ready, right? So a lot of times I'll talk to the marketing team. I'll say, okay, give me your copy. And then it's not a huge shift, but it's making it social ready, which means it's something that we would actually say in a human conversation.
Yeah, something that I love you putting it that way. Something that you actually say is, I feel like a lot of marketers approach it from, okay, we wrote this white paper and now we're going to do some LinkedIn copy. And, it's just so many factors that I sometimes feel like it's missed from the mobile perspective and the mobile usage. And I'm like, you got these solid paragraphs in there that someone on mobile, it's going to look like a whole page of text. Nobody's going to read that. They'll look at that and be like, oh my goodness.
I have conversations with marketers. Like sometimes a lot of times I'll work with clients where I'll actually work and coach their top leaders, their executives, across the board, like sales, marketing, et cetera. But it's funny because like marketers, they always are good writers, but I have to kind of do exactly what you said, which is beat out the marketing copy tendency. I'm like, recently I had a client where they had just done a full web page redesign, right? Like they did their whole site. And it's funny because I had to beat out that makes it sound much more aggressive. I had to gently suggest that maybe they shouldn't be as keyword focused in their LinkedIn copy, right? Because they had for months been going like, hey, we need to we're doing web page copy, which is super keyword intensive and every, sentence has to be exact, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but human beings don't talk in keywords, right? And so be like, yeah, let's again, make it more like me and you having a conversation. So, but even having that awareness is a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, I would imagine that was that's some strange LinkedIn copy that would come out. It's like you got to mention this keyword 5 times in this post, and that is going to be a
ding 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 ding. Yeah,
making exactly. Dave, I have a couple of rapid fire questions that I want to ask you.
Sure,
but before we kind of get to that, is there anything that maybe I didn't ask or we didn't cover when it comes to, this alignment with sales and enabling sales to become these ambassadors or brand ambassadors for a company?
Yeah.
Is there something I kind of missed or I didn't cover that you think it's important for us to touch on?
And by the way, I call them sales Sherpas. I like your ambassador concept, but I call them Sherpas, right? The guide up the mountain for our prospects. So I think you have to be.
That brings up memories from Nepal, but I love it.
Oh, nice.
I love it.
Yeah. I think the only thing here that's really important to understand for both the marketing and sales side is that moving forward, I really feel that salespeople are going to become more like marketers. And marketers are going to become more like salespeople. To be successful, in the next 5 to 10 years, let's say, you have to embrace that convergence. There was they diverged and went into their little silos about 20 years ago. But because of technology, you can't just be like, I'm a salesperson, I'm not going to think about marketing, and vice versa. So this is being driven by forces well beyond us, right? As individuals, it is. What a salesperson is, for example, in 10 years is going to be vastly different than what it was 10 years ago. So, this evolution and this change, this transformation can be challenging, but it's one of those things. If you don't like if you don't like change, you're going to like obsolescence even less. So, you got to keep your eyes open for this one and your mind open.
I love it. Okay. Let's do some rapid fire questions, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. Now, I know you just published 2 books, right?
Yes.
And I want to come back to this and touch on the 2, and you can't mention them here because my next question is about resources and books. So the first question I want to ask you is what is one resource? It could be a book, a blog, podcast, talk, whatever it is that has fundamentally changed the way you work or live.
Yeah, very early in my career, I read a book which has nothing to do with sales or business. It's called The Four Agreements. It was written by a guy named Don Miguel Ruiz. It's a little out there in some parts of it. It was an Oprah book, but it inherently affected how I view myself and my interactions with other human beings. And looking back, it actually changed the path of my life. So the Four Agreements, again, you can kind of, ignore some of the little more esoteric parts of it, but those Four Agreements were super huge. And so it's an easy read. Highly recommend it.
Thank you very much for that. And what about your own books? Let's touch on that as well. So you just, once we pass this, the question about somebody else's book, I also love to hear about, what did you just write about and what are the books about?
Yeah. So I've written way too many books, but the two that just came out were updated editions of my book, Networking in the 21st Century, Why Your Network Sucks and What to Do About It. And then I did actually a third edition of Networking in the 21st Century on LinkedIn. And they were really driven by the pandemic. I was really looking at what does networking and relationship building look like in a post-pandemic world. Post-pandemic, by the way, not meaning the pandemic's done, just after March, 2020, when at least here in the United States, life changed, right? And it's not going to go back to that new normal. And I think that yes, the in-person went away for a long time. Hopefully it's coming back a little bit, but I really wanted to look at how do we use both online and offline tools to build relationships. We were talking about the idea of being a sales Sherpa, but really kind of adopting a new approach to business development in a world with a ton of technology that's replacing some of the automated stuff that we used to do. How do we provide value for our prospects and customers and just our network in general? Because I have seen in my own career, both for myself and for many of the people I know, the people that your network does have a dramatic impact on your business. And so I wanted to make sure that I was really addressing a lot of the questions and concerns that people have right now, which are super valid. What happens when you can't go to a networking event and you've been stuck at home just doing Zoom calls for a year?
That's right, man. That's right. This camera is on all the time at my end, and it's so important to know how to leverage it properly. Now that's awesome, and we'll definitely add links to them in the description. Question number 2 I have is, what if you could give one advice to B2B marketers? What would it be?
Your customers and prospects, the people you're trying to sell to, are human beings. Treat them as human beings. And the more you keep that in mind, not only is that better for the world, but the more effective you'll be.
Question number 3. Who are some of the influencers in the marketing and sales space that you follow?
Andy Crestodina is a good friend of mine from here in the Chicago area in the States. If you want to talk about content marketing, he is the man, the myth, the legend, and love him to death. He's a close friend of mine. He's a great person outside of the business world, great in the business world. I love Ann Handley, who's known by many people in the content marketing and writing world. She's fantastic. I would definitely check out her material. See, here's the thing. You asked me to recommend people, then I'm just going to forget everybody and then feel really bad afterwards and go like, oh, here's the 19 other people but I'm just going to say with those two, because I think, they're ones that I go to regularly and am influenced by quite a bit.
That's awesome. Last thing is, what is something that you're excited about in the B2B space today?
What I'm excited about is also what's terrifying is the last 18 months have caused a lot of uncertainty. I think we're still living in a lot of uncertainty. I think some challenges in the way that we do business and the way we do life. Not only, again, I'm here in the States, but I think globally, as we've seen some of the holes in the system, so to speak. I think that means there's a ton of opportunity. I think that, there's I have a 2-year-old son. I think he will be growing up in a vastly different world than I grew up in. That's scary as heck. but that's also exciting, and I think there's the opportunity for us as organizations to, who are, if we're in a business talking to another business, we're people that are trying to influence the direction. I say sales is a creative endeavor where you're trying to create opportunities in something that didn't exist before. That's super exciting to me. And it's better than just sitting at home being freaked out. Which happens every once in a while.
That one is very true. It does happen maybe sometimes too often than you'd like to admit. No, I really appreciate it. Look, David, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the on the podcast, and really appreciate you sharing all the insights.
Hey, I enjoy this conversation immensely, and I'm so glad you invited me to talk to you.
Cheers. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving us that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and sharing the pod with a friend. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please make sure to join the community Slack channel at growthcolony.org/Slack. growthcolony.org/Slack. Thanks again for all the support, and we're looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.